What if I told you a simple sip of an energy drink turned a quiet, sleepy cat into the most destructive force the school had ever seen? Or better, imagine this: a bored cat, a banned energy drink, and 10 minutes later, the classroom looked like a hurricane tore through it. You won't believe what happened next. This is not your typical cat takes a nap in class story. Oh no, this story involves chaos, broken desks, a classroom in total shambles, and one cat who had no idea what he was getting into. Meet Milo, the sleepiest, laziest cat in the entire school. Milo wasn't the kind of student who made trouble. Honestly, he was barely awake most of the time. In every class, without fail, Milo's head would slowly sink into his desk. It didn't matter what the teacher said. Math, science, history. It was all the same to Milo. Boring. Just stay quiet, sleep through it, and hope no one noticed him. But on this day, everything changed. And it all started with a sip of something Milo was never supposed to touch. Milo was bored. Like really bored. His eyelids felt like they weighed 1,000 pounds. His teacher, a grumpy old dog named Mr. Barkley, was droning on about fractions. Milo knew if he closed his eyes even for a second, he'd be out cold. Then, Milo's friend, Felix, a mischievous ferret, slid something across the desk. It was small, cold, and glowing neon green. Prime energy. Felix grinned, whispering, "Just one sip. This stuff is wild. Keeps you awake for hours." Milo hesitated. He knew drinks like this were banned from school for a reason. But he was desperate. Anything was better than falling asleep and getting detention. With a quick glance toward Mr. Barkley, Milo cracked open the can. Just one sip. That's all it took. At first, nothing happened. Milo blinked confused. What was the big deal? It just tasted like citrus and sugar. But then, bam, it hit him like a lightning bolt. His heart raced, his paws twitched, and his eyes shot open, wider than they'd ever been. Suddenly, the world felt different. Everything was moving too slowly, too boringly. Milo's brain buzzed with new ideas. What if I moved every desk in the room? What if I flipped the teacher's desk, just to see what happens? Before he could stop himself, Milo leapt out of his seat. "WOHO!" he yowled, kicking a chair across the room. The class went silent for a moment, stunned. Then, chaos erupted. Milo darted from one end of the classroom to the other like a whirlwind. Desks flew. Books rained from the shelves. Felix couldn't stop laughing, and the other students cheered as Milo hopped onto the teacher's desk and did an exaggerated victory dance. But Milo wasn't just playing around. The energy from the drink had taken over. He wasn't thinking, he was acting. He tore down posters from the walls, threw markers like confetti, and turned the class hamster's cage into an impromptu racetrack. Meanwhile, poor Mr. Barkley tried desperately to regain control. "Milo, sit down. Stop this nonsense right now," he barked. But Milo didn't hear a word. He was too far gone, riding the unstoppable wave of caffeine-fueled chaos. And just when it seemed like things couldn't get any worse, they did. Milo spotted something shiny, the classroom fire alarm. His pupils dilated. "What if I pull it? Just a little?" Felix gasped, realizing what Milo was about to do. "Dude, and oh." But it was too late. With one swift yank, Milo pulled the lever. An ear-piercing alarm blared, and bright red lights flashed across the room. Students screamed. Papers flew everywhere. Mr. Barkley's jaw dropped in disbelief. And Milo? He just stood there, panting, looking around at the mess he had created. The energy drink was finally wearing off, leaving behind only the wreckage. That's when the principal, a towering St. Bernard named Mrs. Fang, stormed into the room. Her eyes scanned the disaster zone, locking onto Milo, who was still standing beside the fire alarm with a guilty grin. Everyone held their breath. Mrs. Fang didn't say a word. She just gave Milo a look that said, "You are in so much trouble." Milo's heart sank. Suddenly, The weight of everything he'd done hit him like a ton of bricks. The desks, the books, the fire alarm. How had things spiraled so badly, so fast? As Milo slumped into his seat, he felt a wave of shame wash over him. This wasn't supposed to happen. He just wanted to stay awake, not destroy the entire classroom. Felix nudged him, trying to hide his laughter. Well, at least you're not bored anymore. Milo groaned, not helping Felix. Mrs. Fang and Mr. Barkley spent the next hour cleaning up the mess, and Milo, still buzzing with leftover energy, had to stay behind to help. For the rest of the week, Milo was banned from sitting near Felix, and prime energy was added to the school's do not bring list. If you loved this chaotic adventure, hit that like button, subscribe, and tell us in the comments, what's the wildest thing that ever happened in your classroom? And remember, stay away from energy drinks, folks. Trust me, it's not worth it. Grinning cat face with smiling eyes. In the end, Milo learned his lesson the hard way. Sometimes, the easiest way out of a problem isn't the best one. And no matter how boring things might seem, they could always be worse. Much worse.